What if the dream of paradise could vanish almost overnight? For years, Southwest Florida was the ultimate escape, a place where the sun always seemed to shine, where the Gulf's gentle waves promised a fresh start, and where home values only seemed to climb. Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Sarasota, these weren't just names on a map. They were symbols of freedom, prosperity, and the kind of life most people only imagined on vacation. But in 2025, something happened that no one saw coming. The same market that once made millionaires out of ordinary homeowners is now leaving families stunned. Investors scrambling, and longtime residents questioning everything they thought they knew about Florida real estate. It started quietly, almost invisibly. A few more for sale signs here, a couple of price cuts there. But then the numbers began to tell a story that was impossible to ignore. In May 2025, Naples, a city once famous for its bulletproof property values, saw its median home price plunge by a staggering 19.2%. That's not just a dip. That's a freefall, the steepest drop of any city in Florida, and a gut punch to anyone who believed the good times would last forever. Suddenly, revealed, the same homes that sparked bidding wars and sold in days are sitting empty, their owners watching helplessly as their hard-earned equity melts away. But the real shock isn't just in the numbers, it's in the mood on the ground. Open houses that once buzzed with eager buyers now echo with silence. Revealed, agents who used to field calls from desperate out-of-state families now spend their days explaining why prices keep dropping, why offers are so rare, and why the market feels frozen in place. The sense of urgency that once defined Southwest Florida real estate has vanished, replaced by a creeping anxiety that grows with every unsold listing and every unanswered phone call. So what happened? How did one of America's hottest real estate markets turn cold almost overnight? The easy answer is to blame rising interest rates or a cooling national economy. But the truth is far more complicated and far more unsettling. Beneath the surface, a perfect storm of hidden costs, insurance chaos, and climate risk has been building for years, quietly eroding the foundation of Florida's real estate boom. Now, those forces are coming to light, exposing vulnerabilities that most buyers and sellers never imagined, and the consequences are rippling far beyond the beaches. Families who stretched to buy at the peak are now facing losses that could take years to recover. Retirees who moved south for a peaceful life are watching their nest eggs shrink with every new headline. Even seasoned investors are being forced to rethink their strategies as the old rules of the market no longer apply. The shockwaves from this downturn are just beginning, revealed, and what's really driving them may upend everything you thought you knew about buying or owning a home in Florida. But here's the twist, revealed. This isn't just a story about falling prices or missed opportunities. It's about the hidden forces that can turn paradise into a pressure cooker, revealed, and the risks that come with chasing a dream everyone else wants. As the sun keeps shining and the palm trees keep swaying, a new reality is taking hold, one where the true cost of living in paradise is finally being revealed. And as you'll see, the answers aren't just surprising. They're a warning for anyone who still believes that Florida real estate is a sure thing. So, what's really happening behind the scenes? What hidden dangers are pushing owners and buyers to the brink? And could the next chapter in Florida's real estate story be even more dramatic than anyone expects? The truth is more complicated and more shocking than you've been told, and it all starts right here, in the heart of Southwest Florida, where the dream of paradise is facing its toughest test yet. It's hard to believe now, but just a few years ago, Southwest Florida was the epicenter of a migration, unlike anything the region had ever seen. The world was in lockdown, cities were silent, and uncertainty hung in the air. But along the Gulf Coast, something extraordinary was happening. As the rest of the country hunkered down, Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Sarasota became magnets for anyone dreaming of a fresh start. The old rules of geography faded away. Suddenly, it didn't matter where your office was, only where you wanted to wake up. And for thousands, the answer was clear. Somewhere with sunlight, salt air, and the promise of a better life. Remote work, once a rare perk, became a lifeline. Families who'd spent years scraping ice off windshields in New York, Chicago, or Boston found themselves scrolling through listings for homes with palm trees and water views. Revealed, the migration started as a trickle, just a few moving vans rolling down I-75, packed with dreams and furniture. But almost overnight, it turned into a surge. Retirees who'd always planned to move someday decided that someday was now. Young professionals, newly untethered from high-rise cubicles, chased the fantasy of working from a lanai laptop open, the sound of palm fronds rustling in the breeze. The pitch was irresistible. No state income tax, lower property taxes, a lifestyle that once belonged only to vacationers. Every day, more arrivals. Each one chasing the same promised sun space, and a sense of freedom that felt rare anywhere else. Real estate agents could barely keep up. Their phones rang off the hook with buyers willing to pay sight unseen. Bidding wars erupted over basic ranch homes and fixer-uppers. In Cape Coral, buyers camped outside model homes, hoping to snag an early slot. Sarasota's quiet neighborhoods filled with of state plates and fresh landscaping. The pandemic didn't just erase boundaries, it redrew the entire map of desirability. Waterfront lots that once lingered on the market vanished in hours. Even homes tucked behind shopping plazas or winding canals drew offers above asking. Developers scrambled to keep up, and construction cranes became as common as palm trees. Builders promised everything: open-concept kitchens, hurricane glass, smart thermostats, and the kind of amenities that made every day feel like a vacation. The pace was relentless. Each new arrival seemed to push prices higher, every sale setting a new record. For a moment, Southwest Florida felt like the center of the universe. But the newcomers brought more than just money. They brought expectations: good schools, safe neighborhoods, restaurants, and top-tier healthcare. Local shops boomed. Private golf clubs and marinas filled with new faces and northern accents. Restaurants booked out weeks in advance. The region's old-timers watched as their sleepy towns transformed into bustling enclaves. Remote work changed more than addresses. It changed the rhythm of daily life. Morning meetings happened to the sound of distant gulls. The line between weekday and weekend blurred. For many, the move wasn't just about weather or taxes. It was about possibility. About rewriting what life could look like. Beneath the surface, though, pressure was building. Inventory thinned, sellers grew bold, and a sense of urgency took hold. How long could this last? For a while it seemed endless. The sun, the sea, the freedom. Southwest Florida promised it all. For thousands of new residents, that promise was too good to resist. The migration became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Each new arrival drove prices higher, making the region even more desirable. The fear of missing out was real. Buyers rushed to lock in deals before prices climbed out of reach. Agents fielded calls from people desperate to know how much over asking they needed to go. In some neighborhoods, homes sold before the ink was dry on the listing. The numbers were staggering. In just 2 years, median home prices soared to record highs. Bidding wars became the norm, not the exception. Even modest homes fetched luxury prices. The market moved at breakneck speed, and for a while, it felt like the good times would never end. But as the frenzy reached its peak, cracks began to show. Inventory couldn't keep up with demand. Builders raced to finish new homes, but supply chain delays and labor shortages slowed progress. Sellers, emboldened by the feeding frenzy, set sky-high prices, confident that buyers would pay anything to get in. Yet, beneath the excitement, a quiet anxiety lingered. How sustainable was this boom? Could prices really keep climbing forever? Some locals worried that the region was changing too fast, that the very things that made Southwest Florida special, its laid-back vibe, its sense of community, were being lost in the rush. But for most, the promise of paradise was too powerful to resist. The migration continued, reshaping the region in ways no one could have predicted. And as the dust settled, one thing became clear: Southwest Florida was no longer just a destination. It was a phenomenon, a place where dreams collided with reality, and where the pursuit of a better life set the stage for a market that would soon face its greatest test yet. But the story of the boom was only the beginning. What happened next would leave even the most seasoned experts stunned, and would reveal the hidden costs of chasing paradise at any price. The shift was as swift as it was shocking. One moment, Southwest Florida's real estate market was a sun-drenched gold rush, with homes vanishing in days and prices climbing to dizzying heights. The next, the entire region seemed to hit an invisible wall. It didn't happen with a bang. but with a slow, creeping chill that left even the most confident sellers and agents stunned. The same neighborhoods that had been the scene of frenzied bidding wars were suddenly quiet, their streets lined with "for sale" signs that lingered week after week. The market, once defined by urgency and excitement, had frozen almost overnight. Naples, the crown jewel of the Gulf Coast, became ground zero for this reversal. For years, the city's name was synonymous with endless appreciation and the kind of certainty that made even the most cautious investors relax. But in May 2025, the numbers told a story no one wanted to believe. The median home price in Naples plummeted by 19.2% in just 12 months, the steepest drop of any city in Florida. That wasn't just a correction. It was a gut punch, slicing through years of built-up equity in a single stroke. For families who had stretched to buy at the peak, the reality was even harsher. A 3-bedroom ranch that sold for $950,722 might now fetch $770,000 if it sells at all. Veiled, that's a loss of $180,000 before even factoring in closing costs, commissions, or the next insurance renewal. The safety net of steady appreciation had vanished, replaced by a new and unsettling question: how much further could prices fall? The psychological shift was immediate and profound. The fear of missing out that had driven buyers to overbid and waive contingencies was replaced by a new fear: catching a falling knife. Open houses, once packed with eager buyers, now drew only curious neighbors and empty rooms. Revealed, agents who had spent the past 2 years fielding calls from desperate buyers now found themselves explaining price reductions, market comps, and the harsh new realities of a market in retreat. One agent summed it up with a single sentence: people used to ask how much over asking they needed to go. Now they ask how much they'll lose if they list. The headlines screamed about the 19% drop field, but behind every percentage point was a real story. A retired couple watching their nest egg shrink, a remote worker wondering if the Florida move was a mistake, a landlord calculating whether to sell at a loss or hold on and hope for a rebound. The market's rhythm had slowed to a crawl. The homes that once vanished in under 10 days now lingered for more than 40. The frenzied pace of 2021, when sellers fielded offers before the ink was dry on a listing, had evaporated. Single-family home sales in Naples were down 11% year-over-year, while condo transactions had plummeted by a staggering 39%. The pipeline that once moved at breakneck speed was now clogged with uncertainty and hesitation. For sellers, the waiting game became a new kind of stress. Some needed to relocate for work, others faced mounting carrying costs, and a few simply couldn't afford to hold on any longer. Condo owners felt the pain most acutely, with sales volume down nearly 40%. Units that once sparked bidding wars now drew little more than passing interest. Single-family sellers, too, were forced to reckon with a changed reality. The days of easy money were over. Each new listing was a test of patience and resolve. The slowdown wasn't just a number. It was a daily grind. Empty open houses, price cuts that stung, and the gnawing sense that the market's best days might be behind it. Inventory flooded the market across southwest Florida. By June 2025, over 225,000 homes were listed for sale statewide, a figure not seen in more than a decade. This wasn't just a blip on a chart. It was open houses with empty sign, in sheets, price, cut banners on every block, and sellers checking their phones for offers that never came. For the first time in years, buyers held the upper hand. Choices abounded. The days of scrambling to outbid half a dozen rivals were gone. Now, buyers asked for concessions, closing credits, repairs, even interest rate buy-downs, and often got them. But the freeze wasn't felt equally everywhere. Coastal metros like Naples, Cape Coral, and Sarasota bore the brunt, with listings stacking up as insurance costs, flood risk, and hurricane memories drove would-be buyers to caution. Each new listing reset neighborhood prices, dragging comps lower. The more homes that hit the market, the more leverage shifted to the buyer side of the table. Yet, inland markets like Ocala and Gainesville told a different story, with modest price gains and less dramatic inventory growth. There, homes moved faster, and sellers didn't face the same pressure to cut deals. Still, for most of southwest Florida, the sudden freeze was impossible to ignore. The old playbook, list high, expect over asking, close in days, no longer worked. Instead, sellers chased the market down, cutting prices in hopes of attracting the shrinking pool of buyers. The sense of urgency that once fueled the boom had been replaced by silence and second-guessing. Every week a property sat unsold, anxiety grew. The market, once a symbol of endless possibility, now felt like a gamble where the odds had turned against even the most careful players. And as the freeze deepened, a new question emerged: was this just a painful pause or the start of something permanent? The answer, as it turned out, it would depend on forces far beyond the control of any single buyer or seller. Because what happened next would reveal just how fragile paradise could be, and just how quickly the dream could slip away. The balance of power in Southwest Florida's real estate market didn't just shift, it flipped. For years, sellers held all the cards. If you owned a home, you could name your price and expect a line of eager buyers, sometimes sight unseen, ready to outbid each other. But in 2025, the tide turned. Suddenly, buyers were the ones calling the shots, and the entire market felt the impact. It started with a surge in inventory. The homes that once disappeared in days now lingered for weeks, then months. By June, the number of active listings across Florida soared to levels not seen in over a decade. In Naples, Cape Coral, and Sarasota, for sale, signs multiplied on every block. The frenzy of the pandemic boom was replaced by a new reality: buyers had choices, and they knew it. The days of frantic bidding wars were over. Now, it was sellers who scrambled to stand out, slashing prices and offering perks just to get noticed. Open houses, once packed with hopeful families and investors, became quiet and tense. Agents who used to juggle multiple offers now waited anxiously for a single showing. The sense of urgency that once defined the market had vanished. Buyers, no longer pressured by fear of missing out, took their time. They compared options, negotiated hard, and walked away from deals that didn't feel right. For the first time in years, they could afford to be picky. Sellers, meanwhile, faced a harsh new landscape. The old strategy of listing high and expecting a bidding war was dead. Instead, they found themselves chasing the market down, cutting prices again and again as more homes hit the market. Every price reduction dragged neighborhood values lower, fueling even more caution among buyers. The more inventory piled up, the more leverage shifted to the buyer's side of the table. In some neighborhoods, it felt like a race to the bottom, with sellers competing not just on price, but on extras, closing credits, repair allowances, even help with moving costs. Buyers quickly learned to use their newfound power. They asked for, and often received, concessions that would have been unthinkable just a year earlier. Inspection contingencies, repair requests, and even interest rate buy-downs became standard. Some buyers demanded new appliances or landscaping upgrades. In a market where every offer counted, sellers were willing to do almost anything to close the deal. The days of take it or leave it were over. Now, it was all about sweetening the pot. But the shift wasn't just about price. It was about control. Buyers could insist on thorough inspections, demand repairs, and walk away if the numbers didn't add up. For the first time in years, the market felt balanced, at least for those who could still afford to buy. But even as buyers celebrated their new leverage, the reasons behind the shift were sobering. Rising mortgage rates had priced out many would-be buyers, shrinking the pool of competition. Insurance premiums, especially in coastal areas, soared to record highs, making homeownership more expensive and riskier than ever. Flood risk and hurricane memories lingered in the background, driving some buyers inland to places like Ocala and Gainesville, where prices were steadier and insurance costs less punishing. Builders, too, felt the impact. With unsold inventory piling up, they rolled out aggressive incentives, rate buy-downs, closing credits, appliance packages, and even paid HOA fees. For buyers, the math suddenly favored new construction, where monthly payments were lower and the homes came with the latest hurricane codes. Existing homeowners, unable to match these perks, watched as their properties languished on the market, forced to cut prices or wait for a buyer who might never come. The power shift exposed a new kind of anxiety. For sellers, every week a home sat unsold meant more carrying costs, more uncertainty, and more pressure to make a deal. For buyers, the abundance of choice was both a blessing and a curse. With so many options, some hesitated, worried that prices might fall even further. Others wondered if the market would ever return to its former glory. or if the days of easy appreciation were gone for good. But one thing was clear: the era of the seller's market was over, at least for now. Buyers had taken control, and the rules of the game had changed. The question now was how long this new balance would last, and what it would mean for the future of Southwest Florida real estate. Because as buyers enjoyed their moment in the sun, new challenges were already looming on the horizon, threatening to shake up the market once again. If there's one factor quietly turning the Florida dream into a nightmare, it's insurance. For years, most buyers barely glanced at their annual premium, treating it as just another line on the closing statement. But in 2025, insurance has become the single biggest deal breaker in Southwest Florida real estate, a hidden cost that's blindsiding both buyers and sellers and reshaping the entire market. The numbers are staggering. What once cost $13,000 a year for a typical home now routinely demands $8,112 or even $20,000 for properties near the coast. The average premium in Southwest Florida has soared past $5,600, nearly double the state average. For many, the insurance bill alone now rivals or even exceeds the mortgage payment. It's not just a monthly nuisance. It's a financial shock that can kill a deal in an instant. Buyers and sellers alike are forced to scrutinize every quote, knowing that a single number can make or break a sale. Stories of sticker shock are everywhere. One Naples insurance broker flips through a stack of canceled policies, recalling a client who was quoted at $18,000 for a $600,000 house. The deal died on the spot. And it's not just about high prices. Coverage itself is getting harder to find. Major insurers like State Farm and Farmers have pulled out of Florida, leaving thousands of homeowners scrambling for alternatives. The state's insurer of last resort, Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, has ballooned to over 1.3 million policies, up from less than 500,000 just a few years ago. That surge isn't just a statistic, it's a warning sign. More and more homeowners are now one hurricane away from disaster, backed by a state fund already stretched thin. Every storm season brings new anxiety. Premiums rise with every hurricane, and non-renewal notices arrive with little warning. Homeowners in Fort Myers and Cape Coral report premiums doubling or tripling in a single renewal cycle. Sarasota residents see quotes jump from $4,000 to $10,000 without ever filing a claim. The fallout is everywhere. Sellers who once counted on a quick sale now watch as buyers back out, spooked by insurance costs they can't stomach. Agents describe closings that fall apart days before funding, all because the final premium came in thousands higher than expected. Vendors expire, deals die, and properties return to the market, unsold and unwanted. Some owners, unable to find affordable coverage at all, go uninsured, risking everything with the next storm season. For those still in the game, each new quote feels like a gamble. The insurance crisis isn't a background issue anymore. It's front and center, driving buyers away and trapping would-be sellers. Every premium hike, every carrier exit, every canceled policy ratchets up the anxiety. The question for many isn't just whether they can afford their home, but whether they can keep it insured at all. The ripple effects are everywhere. Buyers who might have stretched to afford a home now walk away after seeing the insurance quote. Sellers, especially those on the coast, are forced to slash prices or offer credits just to keep deals alive. Even cash buyers, once the backbone of the market, are hesitating, wary of the long-term risks and rising costs. The old logic that real estate always goes up is being tested by a new reality. If you can't insure it, you can't sell it, and the crisis is only getting worse. Each new hurricane season brings more claims, more losses, and more insurers heading for the exits. The state's insurance market is caught in a vicious cycle. Higher premiums drive away buyers, which leads to more unsold homes, which puts even more pressure on prices. Meanwhile, the state's insurer of last resort is stretched to the limit, raising fears about what happens if another major storm hits. For many, the insurance meltdown is the final straw. It's the hidden cost that turns a dream home into a financial trap, and the reason why so many deals are falling apart at the last minute. The question now isn't just about price or location. It's about risk, resilience, and whether paradise is still worth the gamble. Because in 2025, the true cost of living in Southwest Florida isn't just measured in dollars and cents. It's measured in anxiety, uncertainty, and the constant threat that the next storm could change everything. And as the insurance crisis deepens, it's clear that the rules of the game have changed for good. For decades, the promise of paradise in Southwest Florida was simple, endless sunshine, sparkling beaches, veiled, and a lifestyle that felt immune to the worries of the outside world. But beneath the postcard-perfect surface, a new threat has been quietly rising, one that's now impossible to ignore. Climate risk, once a distant concern, has become a daily reality, revealed, reshaping not just the landscape but the very psychology of the real estate market. The warning signs are everywhere. Hurricane Ian didn't just flood streets and topple trees. It rewrote the economic map of the region. In the months after the storm, tourism, the lifeblood of Southwest Florida, slowed to a trickle. Hotels shuttered, beaches closed, and the jobs that powered restaurants, shops, and attractions vanished almost overnight. But the scars run deeper than boarded-up storefronts. New flood models now assign a staggering 98% chance of severe flooding to many coastal homes here over the next 30 years. For buyers, that number isn't just a statistic, it's a flashing red light. Every mortgage, every renovation, every insurance policy is now a bet against the next disaster. Sea levels along the Gulf have already risen nearly 8 inches since 1950, and the pace is only accelerating. Each hurricane, each king tide, pushes saltwater further inland, eroding confidence as much as it eats away at the shoreline. The risk isn't theoretical. In Fort Myers Beach, entire blocks remain gutted 2 years after Ian. In Cape Coral, canals that once promised waterfront dreams now carry the threat of storm surge. The buyers scan flood maps before they ever call an agent. Lenders demand higher down payments or refuse loans altogether in the most exposed zones. Even cash buyers, once the backbone of the market, hesitate when faced with the prospect of repeated rebuilding and escalating repair costs. The result is a slow, grinding shift in market psychology. Where FOMO once drove bidding wars, fear of future loss now drives caution. Climate risk is no longer an abstract worry, it's a line item in every negotiation, a shadow that hangs over every open house. Sellers who once counted on a quick sale now watch as buyers back out, spooked by the prospect of rising seas and relentless storms. Insurance premiums soar with every new weather event, and some homeowners are left with no coverage at all, forced to gamble on the next hurricane season. The impact ripples through every part of the market. Investors who once saw Southwest Florida as a safe bet are rethinking their strategies. Families who moved south for a better life now wonder if they can afford to stay. Even longtime residents, who weathered past storms with confidence, are questioning whether the risks have finally outpaced the rewards. The old coastal premium, built on scarcity and status, is collapsing under the weight of risk that can't be ignored or insured away. For many, the question isn't just whether to buy, but whether to stay. The dream of paradise is being recalculated, not just in dollars and cents, but in terms of resilience and risk. Revealed, as the probability of catastrophic flooding climbs towards certainty, the premium once paid for a slice of paradise is being replaced by a new kind of caution. The sun still shines and the palm trees still sway, but the reality beneath the surface has changed. In 2025, paradise is under threat, and the true cost of living on the Gulf is finally coming into focus. In the battle for buyers, Southwest Florida's real estate market has become a high-stakes game of incentives. And the biggest players aren't longtime homeowners, revealed, but the builders. As the market cooled and inventory piled up, builders knew they couldn't just wait for buyers to come knocking. Instead, they launched an all-out incentive war, rewriting the rules of what it takes to close a deal in 2025. It's a strategy born out of necessity. With thousands of new homes sitting unsold and carrying costs mounting, builders have every reason to move inventory fast. The result? A wave of offers that would have seemed unthinkable just a few years ago. Permanent interest rate buy-downs, a 10,000 closing credits, appliance upgrades, and even a year of paid homeowners association fees. These are just the opening moves. At luxury communities like Valencia Sky in Naples, the pitch is clear. Impact, rated windows, resort-style amenities, and incentives that slash effective prices. In Cape Coral, bulk cash discounts lure investors, while in Sarasota, new developments offer everything from smart home packages to waived golf fees. For buyers, the math is suddenly in their favor. A family staring down a $3,800 monthly payment on a resale can now find a new build with lower payments, money back at closing, and the peace of mind that comes with the latest hurricane codes. Builder preferred lenders grease the wheels with rate buy downs that can shave hundreds off a mortgage each month. The message is simple. Why settle for a used home when you can get more for less and with fewer headaches? But for existing homeowners, this incentive war is a nightmare. They can't compete with the builder playbook. They can't offer a brand new roof, warranty coverage, or thousands in closing credits. Many can't afford the retrofits needed to meet new building codes. Impact windows alone can run $5,000 to $20,000 in each. As buyers flock to new subdivisions, resale homes linger on the market, their prices dragged lower with every new builder incentive. Each deal resets buyer expectations, revealed, making it even harder for homeowners to attract attention without slashing their own prices. The numbers tell the story. In May 2025, Southwest Florida issued over 500 new construction permits, representing nearly $500 million in fresh inventory. Builders are racing against the clock, knowing that every unsold home is a liability. They're willing to throw in just about anything to get buyers to sign on the dotted line. Meanwhile, revealed, existing homeowners are boxed in, forced to watch from the sidelines as their leverage shrinks and their options dwindle. This incentive war isn't just about perks. It's about survival. For builders, it's a race to clear inventory before the next wave of carrying costs hits, revealed. For homeowners, it's a daily struggle to keep up in a market where the rules change with every new promotion, revealed. The result is a widening gap between new and resale homes, with buyers holding all the cards and sellers left to chase the market down. And the scramble is only intensifying. As incentives stack up, the squeeze on resale homes tightens, revealed, leaving many owners with little choice but to cut prices or wait for a buyer who may never come. The incentive war has redrawn the battle lines in Southwest Florida real estate, and for now, it's the builders who are winning. But as the market continues to shift, the question remains, how long can this arms race last, and what will it mean for the future of homeownership in paradise? The answer may be the most surprising twist yet in a market full of them. For thousands of homeowners across Southwest Florida, the number that matters most isn't the value of their home or the size of their insurance bill. It's their mortgage rate. For those lucky enough to lock in a 3% rate during the boom, that monthly payment is more than just a line on a budget. It's a lifeline. But in 2025, that lifeline has become a trap, caging owners in place even as the world around them changes. The math is simple but brutal. Sell now, and that's steady. Affordable payment vanishes, replaced by a new loan at double the rate and insurance premiums that swallow what's left. For many, the numbers just don't add up. A retired couple in Cape Coral watches their street fill with "for sale" signs. Downsizing sounds tempting, but with a fixed income and a $2,200 mortgage locked in, move-in would mean trading security for uncertainty. Their home, once a nest egg, now feels like a gilded cage. Across town, a landlord with 2 rentals faces a different kind of trap. Rents haven't kept pace with soaring costs. Insurance and taxes eat up profits, but selling would mean accepting a price that barely covers what's owed. He holds on, hoping for a rebound that may never come. This is the lock-in paradox. Owners with little reason to move, even when the market turns against them. The freedom that once drew so many to Florida has curdled into gridlock. Some are underwater, owing more than their homes will fetch. Others cling to low payments, unwilling to risk a leap into a market that no longer rewards risk. The result is a market frozen by fear and inertia, where every decision feels like a gamble. And staying put is the only move that makes sense. The ripple effects are everywhere. Inventory builds as would-be sellers hesitate, waiting for a sign that the market will turn. Neighborhoods that once buzzed with new arrivals now feel stuck in limbo, with homes lingering on the market and prices drifting lower. Veiled agents who once thrived on a steady churn of listings now spend their days counseling clients on the harsh realities of the new normal. The old playbook, sell high, buy higher, ride the wave, no longer works when the cost of money has doubled and the safety net of appreciation has vanished. For many, veiled, the lock-in trap is psychological as much as financial. The fear of making a mistake, of trading a known payment for an unknown future, keeps homeowners rooted in place. Even those who want to move, whether for work, family, or a change of scenery, find themselves paralyzed by the numbers. The debate now hangs over every kitchen table and conference call. Is this downturn just a painful pause, or the start of something permanent? Some experts call it a necessary correction, a chance for the market to catch its breath. Others warn that the combination of high rates, soaring insurance, and climate risk has fundamentally changed the game. Revealed. What's clear is that the lock, in effect, has become one of the most powerful forces shaping Southwest Florida's real estate market. It's not just about dollars and cents. It's about the choices people feel they can't make. The dream of Florida living, once defined by freedom and possibility, is now shadowed by a new reality sometimes. The hardest move is moving at all, and as the market waits for its next chapter, thousands of homeowners remain stuck in place, watching and wondering if the world outside their front door will ever feel open again. As the dust settles over Southwest Florida's once booming real estate market, a single question hangs in the humid air: is this just a painful correction, or the start of something far more permanent? The debate is everywhere, from kitchen tables to boardrooms, from anxious homeowners to seasoned economists. Some see the current downturn as a necessary reset, a chance for the market to catch its breath after years of runaway growth. Others warn that what's happening now is not just a blip, but a fundamental shift that could redefine what it means to own property in paradise. On one side, optimists point to Florida's long history of booms and busts. They argue that the state has weathered storms before, both literal and economic, and always bounced back. They see the current price drops and slow sales as a temporary reaction to high interest rates and insurance chaos, a cycle that will reverse once the Fed cuts rates or lawmakers finally tackle the insurance crisis. In their view, the sun, the beaches, and the steady stream of retirees will always draw new buyers. Today's pain, they say, is tomorrow's opportunity. But the counterargument is growing louder. Revealed. Analysts who track insurance markets and climate data see a different story, a structural repricing, not a cyclical dip. They point to the exodus of major insurers, the 98% flooding risk for many coastal homes, and the reality that premiums now outpace mortgage payments for thousands of owners. The old coastal premium, built on scarcity and status, is collapsing under the weight of risk that can't be ignored or insured away. For these experts, the combination of climate threat, insurance cost, and oversupply has fundamentally changed what Southwest Florida property is worth. Psychology has shifted too. The fear of missing out that once drove buyers to overbid in 2021 has flipped into fear of catching a falling knife. Each new headline about insurer exits or stalled tourism chips away at confidence. Some buyers wait for a bottom that may never come. Sellers hope for a return to the old normal, but the ground beneath their feet keeps shifting. No model can predict whether the market will snap back or settle into a new, lower equilibrium. What's clear is that the forces reshaping Southwest Florida go far beyond interest rates or seasonal trends. The uncertainty is everywhere. Homeowners who once felt secure now second-guess every decision. Investors who saw the region as a safe bet are rethinking their strategies. Even longtime residents, who weathered past storms with confidence, are questioning whether the risks have finally outpaced the rewards. The debate is no longer just about price, it's about risk, resilience, and whether paradise can weather the storms ahead. As the market lingers in limbo, one thing is certain: the old rules no longer apply. The forces that drove the boom now define the bust, and the path forward is anything but clear. For some, revealed, this is a chance to regroup and prepare for the next upswing. For others, it's a warning that the dream of Florida living may never be the same. The only thing everyone agrees on is that the future of Southwest Florida real estate has never been more uncertain. And the next chapter could be the most dramatic yet. Southwest Florida's real estate story has always been one of reinvention. A place where people came to chase sunshine, opportunity, and a sense of freedom that felt just out of reach elsewhere. But as the market stands at a crossroads in 2025, the dream has been rewritten by forces no one can ignore. The sun still shines, the beaches still beckon, and the palm trees still sway in the breeze. But the rules of the game have changed. The days of easy money, bidding wars, and endless appreciation are gone. replaced by a new reality shaped by risk, cost, and uncertainty. For many, the shift has been jarring. Homeowners who once felt invincible now watch their equity shrink with every new listing. Sellers who expected a line of eager buyers are left waiting, sometimes for months, as open houses go quiet and price cuts become routine. The market's old rhythm, list high, sell fast, move on, has slowed to a crawl. Every decision feels heavier, every move more calculated. The freedom that once defined Florida living has been replaced by a sense of caution as families weigh not just what they can afford, but what they're willing to risk. Insurance premiums, once an afterthought, now dominate every conversation. The cost of coverage has soared, and the fear of being left uninsured is real. Climate risk, once a distant worry, is now a daily calculation. Flood maps, hurricane forecasts, yield and sea level projections have become as important as school ratings and commute times. Even the most optimistic buyers are forced to ask hard questions. Can I keep this home safe? Will I be able to sell if the storms get worse? Is paradise still worth the price? Builders and homeowners are locked in a battle for buyers, each offering more incentives, more perks, and more promises. But beneath the surface, the gap between new and resale homes is widening, and the pressure on existing owners is only growing. The lock-in effect has frozen many in place, unable or unwilling to trade a low mortgage rate for the uncertainty of today's market. The result is a landscape defined by hesitation, veiled, where every "for sale" sign tells a story of tough choices and shifting priorities. Yet, even as the challenges mount, the allure of Southwest Florida endures. The region's natural beauty, vibrant communities, and spirit of reinvention remain powerful draws. Some see this moment as a painful but necessary reset, a chance for the market to find its footing and for buyers and sellers to adjust to a new normal. Others worry that the risks have fundamentally changed the equation, and that the dream of Florida living may never be quite the same. What's certain is that the forces shaping the market now are bigger than any one buyer, seller, or developer. The new reality is defined by resilience, adaptability, and a willingness to face hard truths. The days of easy answers are over. In their place is a market that demands vigilance, flexibility, and a clear-eyed understanding of what it really means to call paradise home. As the sun sets on the old era of Southwest Florida real estate, a new chapter is being written, one where the true cost of paradise is finally coming into focus. The question for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors, is no longer just, can I afford it? But, is it worth it? And as the market continues to evolve, revealed, the answer will depend not just on prices and policies, but on the choices each person makes in the face of a future that's anything but certain.